We're live on the red carpet here for the Physical Media Discs of 2023 Awards. Who do we have coming down but the Lionsgate release of Young Guns on Blu-ray and UHD in a beautiful limited edition Best Buy exclusive Steelbook release. This seems to have a lock on the category for best limited edition artwork or packaging for a standard release. Look at the beautiful slipcover and how it perfectly matches the Steelbook underneath. Next, here's Kino Lorber's Entry with their release of the Universal Pictures 4K restoration of the Lon Chaney Sr. silent classic The Trap, which has never seen a really surefire home video release before this point. This is one of the notable standouts in the silent film releases category. Now, in one of the surprises of the year, the Disney Corporation has entered the fray with their release of Cinderella, which is their first release of a Disney animated classic that has not had the classic animation destroyed in any way, shape, or form to a major degree. Here are the two nominees from the ever-reliable Warner Archive collection. Their releases of the iconic Tarzan the Ape Man, which benefited from a brand new painstaking restoration from original elements, and a brand new HD master and restoration for the classic horror and science fiction hybrid film The Devil Doll, directed by Todd Browning, which is one of Browning's classics, long underrated. Speaking of Todd Browning, here are Criterion's two entries this year. Their set release of Todd Browning's Sideshow Shockers, featuring a new restoration of the hard-to-see The Mystic, paired with the George Eastman House restoration of the silent masterpiece The Unknown, and the new restoration master of the classic Freaks. Also here on the carpet is Criterion's 4K UHD and Blu-ray combo release of the Ranown Westerns, featuring the breathtaking Sony 4K restoration masters of the iconic landmark masterpiece westerns of Bud Bedecker with Randolph Scott. Here comes Universal Studios' entry with the Alfred Hitchcock Classics Collection, Volume 3, and in particular, the restoration finally performed on the masterpiece remake of The Man Who Knew Too Much, which finally gives a beautiful master to this VistaVision classic, which has been treated horribly for decades on home video, and features the stunning achievement of restoring the film's Perspecta stereo track, not heard since the original 1956 release. Of course, this is our worst dressed disc of the night, since it is a Universal insistence to keep using these silly cardboard slot pages in the fold-out book design, which is really damaging to getting discs in and out. This is a practice that really needs to stop and does not need to be on the red carpet. Here come two standouts from the Indicator label. The limited edition release of The Kiss Before the Mirror, which updates a fantastic Universal restoration master of a James Whale-directed classic with brand new extras, supplements, and commentary, and of course the usual lovely Indicator limited edition double-sided artwork and fantastic accompanying book. But even this is outshone by Indicator's limited edition of the classic Italian Western The Big Gundown, which has this fantastic deluxe hardcase presentation, a 2-disc set with multiple cuts of the film, including new presentations, new audio mixes, and a wealth of new supplemental features that really vault it ahead of the only other major physical media release of this film, which before Blu-ray never saw a physical media release. Here's Eureka's entry with their limited edition 4K UHD release of the masterpiece Touch of Evil, which has the fantastic limited edition artwork on the beautiful hard case set, and of course contains an exclusive book as well. And then for Arrow Video, see her do her thing with the Barbarella UHD and the gorgeous limited edition package featuring a brand new 4K restoration from the original camera negative and a wealth of new supplemental features. And here's the biggest nominee of the night, with a record 16 nominations. It's Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest limited edition box set on 4K UHD. Look at how the yellow limited edition box art and packaging really just jumps off of the various sides. And here's the Final Game of Death tagging along, which has multiple nominations, including Best Documentary, Best Supplemental Feature, and a special honorary award for film supplements. It appears Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest is going to get a little bit hungry and is already prepared for this to be a long awards ceremony like it's the Oscars telecast, because he's brought some snacks with him. Oh, he seems to be looking at something. I'm not exactly sure. And it seems we have two gatecrashers from the worst of 2023 awards. It's the Warner Studio release of the Fleischer Superman cartoons, and and the Universal 4K UHD release of American Graffiti, the two worst disc releases of 2023. And it appears there's going to be an altercation here, and it appears the Gate Crashers are no longer a problem. And it appears the Bruce box has worked up an appetite already because, and yes, he is... And now the moment that only diehard film nerds and physical media geeks were maybe kinda sorta waiting for. The 2023 Best Discs of the Year Awards. After midnight, we're gonna hand out a lot of disc awards. After midnight, who needs sleep anyway? Hello and welcome back to this damn full idealistic crusade. This is my annual Best of the Year Awards in terms of disc releases and physical media for the calendar year of 2023. Now, 2023 was an amazing, astounding year for physical media, especially for catalog titles. And for those who have not seen one of my awards before, I like to do these every year as a means to not only highlight disc releases that I've reviewed that I think are really superlative, but also to get into the nitty-gritty of the technical realm and really shine some light on and praise disc releases for their technical aspects as well. So I have a number of awards for things like best audio presentation or best disc encoding on different formats, because this stuff is important and quite frequently doesn't get talked about enough. I also try to highlight all the incredible work and efforts that go into producing fantastic supplemental features, and so these, just like last year, will include many awards for the supplements, best commentary, best extras package, best documentary, in addition to other categories, of course, for best artwork, best packaging, and so on and so forth. So I, of course, have all of these time-stamped in the list below and sort of broken up into basic categories. Now, unfortunately, I'm only able to go over and even nominate titles that I've been able to purchase and afford myself. So there were so many great releases in 2023 that it was hard for most collectors to keep up, especially very difficult to do with your wallet. And so I, like most everybody, am not able to afford all of the releases I would like to pick up, and of course have to wait for label sales or different things. So there are a great number of other fantastic 2023 releases that I just simply haven't been able to afford picking up yet. So every time I do one of these awards, I feel kind of bad because there's so many titles that just I'm not able to cover. But there are several releases for 2023 that were so superlative that it's really difficult for anything to compete against them. So the nominations this year are, there's one particular front runner with a great number of nominations across many different categories, and will definitely be going home with a lot of awards this year because the overall package is so superlative across the board for so many different reasons that it's really difficult for most releases to even try to compare with this particular release, and I think it should be no secret which one I'm alluding to. But in any case, I always like to stress that when I do these awards, this is merely me trying to, again, highlight releases that I think have been really superlative in different areas for the past year, and hopefully make a sort of miniature buyer's guide to look at perhaps some releases that maybe you haven't picked up yet, or you might be interested in, and you were just curious more about the some of the technical details and the supplements and things. And I think it's helpful to make lists and do awards like these to not only make a sort of buyer's guide, but also to highlight and support incredible work being done by boutique and studio labels on physical media releases, and also get into the nitty-gritty of the technical side of things, because there's a great number of people in both disc and media production and mastering and authoring, but also in the realm of producing supplemental features who never get the credit they deserve. And so that's why I started doing these awards in the first place, because I do think this stuff is important, and I like to champion things where I can, especially elements of film culture and physical media that I feel are severely underappreciated. And lastly, I'd like to mention that my focus on this channel is primarily classic films and catalog titles, because that's my primary focus and field of interest. But I'm not really covering modern releases here on this channel. But there are a great number of well-made modern releases, of course. But even this year of 2023 was so superlative for catalog titles that I think even modern releases can't hold a candle to some of the catalog titles of 2023, even in a technical sense. Even when you start looking at the encoding of certain disc releases, there are several nominees this year in the technical categories I've developed that I think outshine even the best and brightest of modern releases, with some having encodes with bit rates that go well over 100 megabits per second, even up to the 120 ranges, and that's just incredible to see. So just because you might be looking at an older catalog title doesn't mean that it can't absolutely obliterate the best and most technically oriented of modern releases. So the award for best artwork or package design, I think, is one that had many fantastic contenders for 2023. But I think there's two that went really above and beyond. So the nominees this year are Eureka's limited edition release of the masterpiece Touch of Evil in their deluxe 4K UHD edition with the fantastic new cover artwork design. But then also, I think you have to look at Arrow Video's release of the Bruce Lee Ed Golden Harvest collection, particularly the limited edition box, which I was lucky enough to get. It has completely unique artwork aside from the quite striking standard box set version. But I do think the limited edition was the better option of the two in terms of the more striking one. And so overall, I do think the limited edition for Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest does have the overall best artwork design for 2023 for not just the outer box, but the overall box, the typeface, and the interior contents, and all the individual digipacks having a beautiful uniform design. The award for best Steelbook or limited edition packaging and artwork for an otherwise standard disc release, I think, has a real clear standout this year, and that is the very surprising and wonderful release of Young Guns on the 4K UHD and Blu-ray dual format release. This is the limited edition. It was only sold at Best Buy stores in this rather nice and striking steelbook with custom slipcover. The overall design perfectly matches the aesthetic of the film. It's really nicely done without being super flashy or anything, and is very much in keeping with the film's themes and tone. And of course, nicely lifts off to reveal a beautifully done steelbook. I'm not really one for steelbooks, but when they're done well and the overall purchase price is nearly identical to the standard version, you really can't say no to the much superior deluxe packaging. And if that were not enough, we actually got some nice stylized art cards with all the major characters, each with a nice playing card motif, which was a really nice unexpected touch. And these do have a nice laminated quality to them, so it does have an air of at least more of a premium feel. And again, very nicely, it is a dual format release, so you're not stuck with just UHD only if you don't have 4K capability, and you've got a Blu-ray copy as well of the new master if you needed a Blu-ray for whatever reason. But this was just a really nice surprise, not only the transfer and having the Laserdisc audio track to represent the original mix, and this film being cursed with a lot of really crummy video releases over the years, but this was a surprise for the really lovely packaging, and I definitely think this is the version you should pick up if you want to look at the new master, because it is really well done and was quite cheap for what one of these store-exclusive steelbooks goes for usually. The award for Best Silent Film Release is a shared award. We have the incredible Universal 4K restoration of The Trap on the Kino Blu-ray release, which is another of the must-own silent films on Blu-ray and an absolute must for Lon Chaney fans. But we also have the two silent films included in Criterion's Todd Browning Sideshow Shockers set, and this, of course, is his earlier film, The Mystic, which has been very difficult to see, has been given a beautiful new scan and new score, but the real draw is the George Eastman House restoration of the masterpiece, The Unknown, arguably the best of the Chaney Todd Browning collaborations, and reinstating missing footage to make for what is already a shorter film, a significantly longer and more complete version of an incredibly powerful film that will bowl you over the first time you see it. But seen this way is absolutely staggering. And the presentations here are obviously unlike nothing we've ever been able to see before, but particularly seeing The Unknown in the best quality anybody's ever seen it in, and with the various bits and pieces that have been restored to make it feel more complete and to flow better, and for what is arguably one of Lon Chaney Sr.'s greatest performances. It is an absolutely staggering experience to see on this Criterion Blu-ray, and you also get the incredible benefit of having a really important Todd Browning silent film in The Mystic, which is very rarely discussed and very important for his overall directorial themes, and a very good film in its own right. But I think these three films overall are very much the real standouts for me in terms of silent films for 2023 releases. The award for Best Film Restoration, again, is another of these awards that there's so many great works in terms of new restorations, new masters, new disc releases, that to really highlight any one over another is just, it's just got to be a matter of choosing favorites, really, because there's been such incredible work over the past year. But I do have to choose one overall winner. I think that has to go to the release and series of films and masters that show such an incredible dedication to trying to get these films right and putting an effort that these films have never fully gotten before after decades of being overprinted, over reissued, manipulated on previous video transfers, not handled properly in picture or sound. And of course, you've got multiple films and multiple cuts to deal with. So of course, I think the overall award for best effort in film restoration has to go to Arrow Video's efforts with their Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest set, which brings together Bruce Lee's entire Golden Harvest filmography plus other assorted films, and of course in multiple cuts with multiple audio tracks and different subtitles, and really is a new benchmark in terms of a home video boutique label putting in an astonishing amount of effort in terms of archival work, preservation work, doing their own scans and their own restoration work themselves, and doing a lot of things that should have been done by rights holders in the past over the years, and correcting a lot of mistakes that others have made and unfortunately have gotten baked in to the films ever since. So this is not just an effort of film preservation and film restoration. It's also an effort to try and fix some stuff that's gotten screwed up over the years and undo certain mistakes that then got stuck that way. The award for best or most striking audio restoration, there are so many fantastic audio improvements across catalog titles for the past year, but there was one in particular that was such a complete surprise and utter shock to me personally, honestly, as a gigantic Hitchcock fan. So of course I had to mention Universal's release of the masterpiece The Man Who Knew Too Much remake from 1956, actually having a Perspecta stereo track, which is something that was really mind-blowing for me, because for a good number of years, I had always tried to determine if any Hitchcock films had an alternate presentation other than mono in terms of their sound design. And with Hitchcock famously using VistaVision in the 50s, a lot of VistaVision titles did have Perspecta stereo, for example, but I could never verify if any Hitchcock films ever did, and it didn't seem like they did. It seemed like they were just mono only. Even North by Northwest, which of course was made for MGM, but Hitchcock got to borrow the VistaVision process from Paramount because it was a studio particular process. But not only has this film been in dire need of restoration for decades, but actually being able to hear an alternative audio presentation for a Hitchcock film that was part of the original release is really phenomenal and something to be treasured by all Hitchcock fans, but also all sound fans, because getting to hear these Perspecta audio tracks is not something you're ever going to be able to do in a theatrical environment unless you somehow went to a theater that had an actual Perspecta unit and decoder and was set up for this and had a sort of Perspecta stereo festival. And actually getting these tracks on home video is a very rare thing, so it's something to definitely be celebrated. So to now get into more of the technical awards, the award for Best Encoding on a Blu-ray release, I think has one clear standout. The award goes to Fidelity in Motion for their incredible encoding on Indicator's release of the classic The Big Gundown, where they somehow managed to have multiple cuts of the film, multiple language tracks, subtitles of course, and then pretty much all of the supplemental features on a single disc without any encoding issues and still having a wonderful bitrate maintained throughout. Looking at this particular disc, because this is only disc 1 of a disc 2 set, and disc 2 just has one of the other cuts of the film and nothing else really on it. It's an absolute marvel of disc encoding and how you can literally fill a disc release, just a standard Blu-ray disc, not even talking about the bigger space, obviously, on a UHD disc, but how you can cram a Blu-ray disc literally to the brim with materials and have a reference crash course on a film and a genre, as the Indicator release does, and do it so well that the bitrate or encoding is never an issue whatsoever. So when I purchased this release, I thought it being 2 discs and Indicator and having a lot of extras, that the extras would be spread across the 2 discs. No, they're all on disc 1 with multiple cuts of the film, and the longer cuts at that, which I find absolutely astonishing. So it is easily, by far, the best encoding of a Blu-ray release of 2023. In fact, I think it's a shining example of one of the best encoded discs I've ever seen. The award for best encoding on a 4K UHD release is actually a tie between 3 unbelievably superlative examples of what amazing encoding can do on a UHD release. And those are Arrow Video's release of Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest, which of course was encoded and done by the wonderful people at Fidelity in Motion. Also, Arrow Video's 4K UHD release of Barbarella, also by Fidelity in Motion. And then also Disney's Cinderella UHD release. And I think this is obviously because this is a significantly shorter film in runtime, and there are no extras or really anything else of note on the UHD disc, but the encoding on here and the bitrate levels are so amazingly high that if you are the type of person that likes to glance at the sort of bitrate graph or numbers that appear on your player information bar, when you're looking over a disc release, just as with the Arrow releases with Fidelity and Motion encoding, you're going to be astounded by the numbers that all 3 of these are continually hitting and staying at. Frequently, these are well above 100 megabits per second in terms of the bitrate at any given moment. Frequently, they're over 110, and a lot of times they're getting up into the 120 ranges, which is astounding, especially considering how many supplements are on the Arrow releases. But these all 3 represent a new benchmark, I think, in how you can have amazing encoding jobs being done on UHD releases. And this is what we need to see all UHDs at. These are the kinds of releases that the major studios need to learn from, because when you have feature films on UHD releases from certain studios and labels that are averaging between the 30 to 50 megabits per second range. And of course, there are some that are even lower. That's just, off the top of my head. But when that's the sort of benchmark average, and then you can see UHDs from both boutique labels and studios that are well above 100 megabits per second,
there's a problem there. These are how UHDs need to be encoded. The award for Best Blu-ray Release using the same master as a previous release from a different label or entity, I think has another tie, because there are two really excellent examples of how a single master that is already a well-done master can be improved by encoding and supplements and overall package design. Now, the first is Indicator's limited edition of The Kiss Before the Mirror, which is an underrated James Whale classic that finally got a beautiful restoration from Universal and got a really nice, solid Kino Blu-ray, but it just had a audio commentary that was good and solid, and that was about it. Indicator came out with their release using the same master, which has a better encoding job, better artwork and presentation. Of course, their usual lovely reversible original artwork, thick book that comes along with this release with beautiful writing on the film, and an extensive amount of supplements ranging from a new commentary to even doing a comparison with the later remake of this film that James Whale did for Universal, which is crucial in discussing this film to discuss Whale's own remake. But the Indicator release is a huge upgrade over the Kino release of the same master. The other, of course, is Indicator's limited edition of the Big Gundown using the same Sony preservation master that was released here on Blu-ray by Grindhouse Releasing. And while Grindhouse's release is still really excellent, it doesn't have all of the view options the Indicator does, which most importantly has the full-length Italian version with a hybrid English-Italian monotrack, but also has an exhaustive amount of supplements here, of course, as you can see glimpsed on the back, and the incredible limited edition hard case packaging, of course, the case with original artwork, that, of course, has reversible artwork and the 2 discs inside. The incredible hardbound book that accompanies all the Indicator box sets, loaded with images and stills and write-ups and vintage articles. And, of course, the amazing dual-sided poster. So this is an incredible upgrade over the already impressive Grindhouse release here in the US. And before these two Blu-rays, this film didn't really have any video releases. In fact, it had never had a release on any format in the US, so this is doubly important for this film, which remains one of the great Italian westerns. The award for Best Improvement in a 4K UHD release using the same master that has been released previously by another entity goes to Eureka's limited edition of Touch of Evil with the beautiful new artwork on the limited hard case, of course, in their Masters of Cinema series. And then very nicely, we have the case inside that uses the same design as their previous Blu-ray with the really striking bold orange. We have a really wonderful amount of supplements, which do have unique supplements not found in the Kino release. Of course, inside the case, we have the discs on actual individual hubs, as they should be. And then a really beautifully done hardbound book, which really vaults ahead over the Kino release, which is just one of their, cases inside of a slipcover as they do their UHDs. So this is really the significantly more premium option for getting the new Universal 4K master of the masterpiece Touch of Evil. The award for Best Improvement over previous flawed releases does have several nominees, but the clear standout and ultimate winner is, of course, Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest, which has a Herculean amount of effort put into it to try and undo mistakes and issues in past masters in both picture and sound to such a degree that you really never need to look at any past releases of Lee's films from Golden Harvest on past releases unless you have certain nostalgia for various video editions, because they are completely obsolete now. The awards for best efforts in presenting a film with multiple cuts, audio tracks, and different presentations for Blu-ray goes to the Indicator release of The Big Gundown, and for UHD goes to Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest, which has multiple versions, audio tracks, and cuts for practically every film in the set, including the other supplemental films included that obviously did not star Bruce Lee. So even films like Game of Death 2 have multiple cuts and audio tracks and presentations, which, again, speaks to the length of Arrow's efforts in producing this set. Now to move into awards for supplemental features. The first is, of course, Best Audio Commentary of the Year. This was the single hardest award to do this year because there have been so many incredible commentary tracks, so many tracks filled with revelatory information, so many great listens, so many of the bigger names and commentaries. There were so many that I literally could not include all of them because I could do just an entire awards program just on commentaries from 2023. And of course, this is only talking about the ones that I've actually gotten to hear in terms of 2023 releases that I was able to purchase. So I had to narrow it down somehow, but even this, it was still really difficult. But I must admit, I do think there were some incredible nominees, and in spite of really loving and enjoying every single one of these nominees in terms of tracks, there were some that, even amongst these fantastic commentaries, were real standouts in terms of being jam-packed with information, really wonderful listens, filled with new information about films that we maybe didn't have before, but also having that wonderful spark to them, and some are truly special for other reasons, which I'll get to. But the nominees for Best Audio Commentary, of course, we have the incredible multiple just the incredible commentaries package in Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest set, which of course were by multiple people. We had, of course, David Desser, Jonathan Clements, Frank Jang, Michael Worth, Brandon Bentley, and Mike Leader, all doing commentaries for Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest. Other nominees, of course, include the wonderful double act of Steve Haberman and Konstantin Nasser doing another one of their outstanding classic horror commentaries on the Warner Archive release of The Devil Doll. The always incredible Tim Lucas gave a fantastic commentary on Arrow Video's release of Barbarella on UHD. The Nitrate Diva herself, Nora Fiore, has a beautiful commentary on Indicator's The Kiss Before the Mirror release. And then last but certainly not least, the legendary David J. Skal, who unfortunately recently just passed away, contributed 2 commentaries for Criterion's Todd Browning's Sideshow Shockers for both Freaks and The Unknown. And I have to admit that I still find myself having to say that this year is still incredibly difficult to try to solo out one commentary. So I'm just having to go on personal preference and the ones that I truly enjoyed the most, which I truly enjoyed the heck out of all of these. But for me personally, and I think it depends on commentators you like to follow and such, for me personally, I think it's another tie between Nora Fiore's track on The Kiss Before the Mirror and her incredible ability to cram in loads of information that you've never encountered before, and the all-important commentator's ability to make the listener crack up and laugh and enjoy the information overload you're getting. And the cackle factor I always get in her commentary tracks is why I so frequently find myself giving her the commentary award, just like I did last year. And she is very much my favorite modern commentator on catalog titles. But the other are, of course, the David J. Skal commentaries. And listening to them after he had unfortunately passed away rather tragically was really just I think it's a testament to his lifetime's work in promoting classic films, especially classic horror films, and his work in trying to promote Todd Browning's career, not just for Dracula, but of course he also literally wrote the book on Todd Browning. He wrote a Todd Browning biography, but it was just unbelievably poignant hearing both of his tracks and hearing his wonderful voice one more time. And as someone who listens to his commentaries on the classic Universal films every single year and rewatches his legendary in home video, but really legendary for all monster kids everywhere, his documentaries on the Universal DVDs that he produced. I mean, it's just some of the most important work in supplemental features history. They're some of the bedrocks of physical media and supplemental features, and still form a great deal of the scholarship surrounding the classic Universal horror films. So it was just an unbelievably poignant listening experience, and they are just as much treasures as his other commentaries, such as his Dracula commentary. So they really are immediately right there in greatest commentaries of all time that I will continue to listen to every time I rewatch these films. And it is just a great tribute, I think, to his incredible body of work. And for those of us who have followed his incredible scholarship over the years and have watched his extras and supplements time and time again and read his books and things, it's just incredibly poignant and touching to hear him one last time talk about incredible Todd Browning films. So it's really an unfair competition because you have that factor going in, and all of the commentaries I mentioned are phenomenal must-listens, and again, only a fraction of the great commentaries that were produced this past year. And commentaries are really the most underrated and criminally undervalued aspect of film scholarship, I think. It really is a truly difficult art to achieve and be able to make it look effortless and make a track be still enjoyable and jam-packed with information so it pleases both newcomers and old-timers with certain films alike. It's such a difficult balancing act, and especially once you try to do one yourself, you gain a newfound appreciation for those who just make it seem like it's the easiest thing in the world and such a natural flow of conversation. So that's why I spend so much time trying to sort out what I thought were the most enjoyable and best commentaries of the year. And there are so many great tracks that, again, this is just a small sampling of what I felt were some of the most excellent tracks. But the Skal commentaries in the Criterion Todd Browning set are truly special because they're so unbelievably poignant.
Not gonna cry, man. I'm already tearing up again, man. I can't help it, man.
The award for Best Supplemental Features Package overall on any release. This is another absolute runaway for Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest set with its 65 hours of supplemental features, including alternate cuts and presentations of films, incredible new extras for this release, many vintage pieces, some of the vintage Golden Harvest documentaries, painstakingly recut to now include the beautiful new 4K master materials of the film clips. So even the documentaries were essentially rebuilt from scratch, just like all of the masters that Arrow did for this set. And it is topped off by I think the best way to describe it is awe-inspiring documentary, The Final Game of Death. So the award for Best Overall Supplemental Feature is without question The Final Game of Death, the nearly 4-hour documentary about Bruce Lee's never-finished Game of Death, utilizing all of his shot footage. And not only that, it is an absolute marvel and a completely new approach to discussing not only an unfinished film, a film that was never released, but really for discussing a film in general. It is a completely new style of film analysis in a documentary form. So, of course, The Final Game of Death also takes the award for Best Documentary of 2023. And not only that, I'm giving this a special award for overall excellence in film history supplements. For me, this is not only one of the greatest things to ever be created for a physical media release. Not only is it one of the greatest supplements and greatest examples of film analysis I've seen, it is quite simply the best film documentary I've seen since Dangerous Days, The Making of Blade Runner. It's one of the best film documentaries ever made. It is absolutely astonishing because you literally see a film that was never finished, never completed, never fully realized start to come to life before your very eyes. And it's also a testament to Bruce Lee's career, his work ethic, his martial arts philosophy, and it's allowing you into his working process. This is a film school on a disc. This should be shown in every film school in the world. It is the greatest example of how to study how a film is built and put together piece by piece, shot by shot, scene by scene, sequence by sequence. And you see the continual frustrations, and you see the failures, and you see take after take after take after take after take. And done in such raw form, but with perfect context and with the narration involved, giving you the context of each shot and what's going on and where it was in the production schedule. You feel like you're actually there in the room. And it quickly becomes hypnotic, and you will sit through all the nearly 4 hours of this without even noticing the time. This is a treasure beyond words. Even if you've never seen a Bruce Lee film, you will understand everything about who Bruce Lee was as an actor and director and performer and martial artist just by looking at this. Even if you don't like martial arts films and you're not a Bruce Lee fan, you need to see this because this is one of the greatest examples of the dedication it takes to make any film. And again, why I think it's a film school on a disc and should be utilized in every film school in the world. This is the best film documentary in decades. Now to move into the final category, which are the major best of awards for 2023 releases. The award for best audio quality overall on a release is also one that has to count for great improvements in handling of audio, especially when compared to past releases, and of course, audio restoration work, and then the final presentation on the disc. So I think the award for best overall audio quality has to go to Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest, which, as astounding as the new 4K masters are in the visual realm, the improvement in the audio on all the films is just as staggering. Even if you're just comparing to the Criterion Blu-ray box set of Lee's filmography, if you're comparing all of the different audio options and dub tracks on the Arrow set as available options on the different films, all of them show marked improvements over even the Criterion Blu-ray set, and most of all, the Cantonese and Mandarin tracks. A lot of Lee's films have suffered terribly in their audio preservation history and have fared even worse on home video because they're frequently remixed, and even when we do get the original mono forms, frequently they have issues or they're hyper-compressed or scrubbed in terms of noise reduction or have hiss and hum problems. Fist of Fury had that in particular on the Criterion set. All of that is gone and no longer an issue on every single film here in terms of the newly restored titles, not counting Enter the Dragon because Arrow wasn't allowed to do that. But all of the films here have such an incredible amount of work and effort put into the handling of the entire audio option package for each film, because we're talking about not just the primary track, but the dub tracks and the reissue tracks and all the different audio options that Arrow was able to include for each of the films, and then the extra supplemental films as well. So I think this is another clear-cut case for the Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest set. The award for Best Picture Quality on a Blu-ray release is a bit tough because there were so many great catalog Blu-ray releases this past year, and there's still so many I haven't been able to pick up yet or purchase, but I think I have to go to Tarzan the Ape Man from the Warner Archive simply due to what an amazing job they did with the picture transfer considering the elements involved. This is really revelatory, and to say it's a new experience seeing this film with this new mastering with the MPI scan and the Warner Archive master on this Blu-ray release as compared to the old DVD, which is still technically based on the Laserdisc master, there were moments where I felt like I was actually being able to see things that were just simply not really visible on the old Laserdisc Master. And this is a film where the elements really are going to dictate what you can actually get out of them. And they really pulled a rabbit out of the hat on this one, I think. So on just for the picture quality alone and what Warner Archive was able to do with the elements of this film, I think really makes this the best picture quality on a Blu-ray release for 2023. The award for best picture quality on a UHD release is another shared award with a tie, because there were 3 releases on UHD that are so absolutely sensational that I think they rank among the greatest home video presentations I've ever seen on a picture level. The first of the tie winners for best 4K UHD picture quality has to go to Criterion's release of the Ranown Westerns, utilizing Sony's new 4K masters and restorations of the works of art Bud Bedecker, Randolph Scott Westerns made for Columbia in the 1950s, some of the greatest and most iconic Westerns ever made, that look absolutely staggering. These are even, to say they are giant upgrades over Sony's previous HD masters that date back to their DVD set, and even the 2K master that one film had gotten previously, that does not even begin to describe the just breathtaking majesty of what Sony was able to achieve. These are completely hands-off. They are beautiful archival preservations of these films, right down to having the full dupe transitions intact, and they actually managed to perfectly nail all the day for night shots, which still had issues in the previous Sony masters. So this is one of the biggest visual upgrades you'll ever see on a classic catalog title, just as the next 2 titles I'm about to discuss. That's why this is a shared award between 3 releases this year, because all 3 are sensational due to the 4K masters they're working with. But I mean, I knew these were going to look astonishing coming from new Sony 4K restoration masters, but I was simply not prepared. If you love these films, as you should, this will literally make them live and breathe like you've never experienced before. It literally feels like you're running your own pristine print copy of these, like you're running a 35mm print in your own house. They are revelatory. The other, with the same sort of feeling of you're somehow running a pristine, never run 35mm print copy in your house, goes to Arrow's Barbarella release on UHD, which has one of the most stunning looking picture transfers I've ever seen. This is a film all about its incredible visuals, color, costumes, sets, and just pure style. It's really one of a kind. And if you've ever seen this film before, you've never seen it like this. This is an absolutely staggering video presentation, and it, like the Ranown Western set, is really, for me, at the pinnacle of UHD. It's one of the best home video transfers I've ever seen. It's absolutely perfect and topped off by an incredible fidelity and motion encoding job with a maxed out bit rate, frequently well above the 100 megabits per second range. This release on a video level in terms of overall picture quality, because they were also working from an element in great condition, is just about the best catalog UHD I've ever seen in terms of picture quality, and the HDR presentation and everything is just stupendous in terms of the picture master. And if I didn't already sound like a broken record enough, the other is, of course, Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest, which is the definitive presentation of Bruce Lee's filmography, again, minus Enter the Dragon, because that's Warner. Even the 1080p presentations of the films included as supplemental features, such as basically Game of Death 2, are such gigantic upgrades over what we've seen before, and that film was really only an upscale on Criterion set, for example. But again, as I said before, all past releases of Lee's films on home video are obsolete in every way, shape, or form in terms of every bit of picture quality, detail, color timing, everything. I mean, these are just, they're like seeing these films for the first time. You've never seen them like this. They're absolutely astonishing. So that is why this year I think it's a shared award for Best 4K UHD picture quality between Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest, Arrow's release of Barbarella, and the Criterion UHD release of the Ranown Westerns. Moving on to Best Blu-ray release of the year. There are so many fantastic titles, but I think there's one Blu-ray only release that really hits the nail on the head and manages to not only give us the best presentation of a film that's been terribly neglected for really all of home video until Blu-ray, but also provide the best viewing option for the film with additional viewing options and a substantial supplemental features package that vaults ahead of the already good US release that was the only release of the film to that point. So this, I think, there's really nothing else that quite ticks off as many boxes for Blu-rays of 2023 as Indicator's release of the Big Gundown. This is really, honestly and truly one of the only essentially perfect releases of an Italian Western on physical media, especially on Blu-ray. There is not one issue here with the transfer. The supplements are sensational, and it vaults ahead of the already great Grindhouse release. So this is such an incredible package for a film that before Blu-ray never had a release anywhere and was so incredibly difficult to see. And if that were not enough, the fact that this is Indicator doing one of their incredible limited edition boxes, but still having the great disc and the standard version with a superlative fidelity and motion encoding job. And it has the all-important addition of being able to view the full-length Italian version with a hybrid English and Italian mono track. I mean, that alone puts this over the top, and I think this is unquestionably the greatest standalone single Blu-ray release of 2023 for a film that has just not gotten the respect and attention that it so richly deserves as one of the greatest of Italian Westerns. The award for 4K UHD of the year has many great contenders, but once again, I know I sound like a broken record, but to put anything in this slot other than the clear winner for 2023 would be an insult. So the best 4K UHD release of 2023, no contest, is Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest, which is the definitive presentation of Lee's filmography and corrects decades of preservation and home video wrongs, and really was a Herculean effort by the entire team at Arrow Video, and represents a new benchmark in what physical media can do for a person's entire body of cinematic work. So the award for Best Box Set of the Year should be pretty obvious. It is, of course, Arrow Video's Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest. Once again, there's no contest here. Nothing comes close to this set. It's 65 hours of supplements, multiple presentations of all the films, multiple audio options, multiple cuts, including the long-thought lost footage from The Big Boss in its own confirmed extended cut with even a scan of the lone surviving extended print. And if all of this were not enough, we also have the inclusion of the Final Game of Death documentary, which, as I've said before, I think is the greatest film documentary made in decades. And so the award for Best Disc Release of 2023, overall, regardless of format, the best disc of 2023, I think, has to be, and truly is, Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest, one of the greatest physical media releases of all time on any format. This is honestly and truly a new benchmark for physical media releases, for box sets, and for what dedicated people and dedicated efforts can do for restoring someone's entire filmography. This has so completely raised the bar in terms of what you can do with a truly iconic star's cinematic body of work that has been released innumerable times but never gotten right and never been truly done by people who you can tell live and sleep and eat and breathe being fans of Bruce Lee's films and just putting in as much effort as they possibly could. I mean, this is just absolutely unbelievable. And of course, it's so completely stuffed that it's hard to even handle the box on camera. So I'm just kind of awkwardly doing this and trying to figure out how I can even do this without, hopefully not dropping it. But this just alone of taking the lid off, just you can feel the love and care and attention to detail just emanating from this. So, I mean, nothing comes close to this in terms of overall effort. And again, if that were not enough, we have the final game of death, which just, this transcends being a home video, physical media supplemental feature, or even having its own disc, or even just being a mere exploration of a film that was never finished. And I think it even transcends being a film documentary. This is a whole new approach to getting into the bones and the sinew of essentially of somebody's dream project, and getting such an up close view of somebody's working methods that you feel like you're actually there. And by the time it's over, you feel like you've actually somehow been able to see a version of the film Bruce Lee was trying to make, even though no one will ever do that. I mean, words cannot even begin to describe how impactful this is. So that's why even this on its own would be staggering. But this as just a part of Arrow's set is just, again, this raises the bar for everyone. And so finally we come to the final awards, which are for best labels of 2023. So for best US label, this is where it's kind of always going to be this is the same answer, because once again, I think the best label here in the US in terms of, disc for disc, release for release, having their exemplary efforts in terms of having high quality new scans from Warner MPI and putting together the Blu-ray releases as being just a small part of the big Warner corporate machine, and really trying to dig into the Warner library. No one is doing the quality level of work on every release that Warner Archive is doing. They obviously can't produce supplemental features. They're obviously on a limited budget, but they're doing the work that all studios need to be doing, and all studios need to follow their lead, because it is unbelievably important work. And every title they put out means there's a new preservation master, a new version in circulation, not just for physical media, but also for streaming and theatrical screenings via DCP. And so every title they do gets that film back into circulation. And in spite of their limited budget, they've really figured out a way to really start to try and cover as many films as humanly possible in terms of workload and budget. So no studio even begins to come close to what the Warner Archive is doing. And the degree to which they show up the Warner Studio division and studio label with every single release really underlines the true incompetence of the Warner Studio label. And quite frankly, George Feltenstein and everybody at the Warner Archive should have been put in charge of the Warner Studio label years ago, and still need to. And hopefully soon the Warner Archive can actually move into UHD releases as well, where I think they will pretty much shame a lot of the major studio UHD releases. So there are some really great US boutique labels, and a lot of labels that I don't normally get to cover, and they're doing releases that aren't really in my wheelhouse. But consistently, the Warner Archive does their absolute best to basically, I think, try to be a voice of reason in studio disc releases, and we have to champion and support them wherever possible. The award for Best UK Label is I think quite difficult actually, because there are so many great UK boutique labels. So many great releases were produced by them throughout 2023, and consistently you have incredible efforts from especially Eureka, Arrow, and Indicator. Indicator really is, I think, the best at producing the most comprehensive supplements packages and making real reference pieces out of disc releases. But Arrow came along this year and just started doing incredible catalog releases and really doubled down on their UHD releases and released a lot of really important catalog titles on UHD, which is not something a lot of labels get to do, especially boutique labels. So I think it's always a sort of toss up, and you know, it's not a battle, but it's a struggle to choose between those three, especially among UK boutique labels. But this year, I think it was really between Indicator and Arrow, and I kind of think it has to be a tie between them, because they both just did so many superlative releases, and a lot of ones I still haven't even gotten to cover yet, because of course I'm still stuck being ordered around by my ever-shrinking wallet and trying to figure out how I can afford more discs and what can I possibly do to get more discs and be able to afford more Blu-rays and UHDs. One has to scheme and wait for sales, but I think it's really a toss-up between Indicator and Arrow, so I don't know if I can necessarily choose one over the other. And again, Eureka had so many fantastic releases as well. So I think Arrow really did start to pull ahead, especially with the UHDs they were coming out. And then you've got the mammoth Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest as just as an achievement for Lee's films and for physical media and the supplements and the final Game of Death. Just everything overall. I think that does kind of put them over the top. So it's really neck and neck between them, but I think Arrow has to edge out definitely as the best UK label of 2023. And thus, overall, I think the Label of the Year award for 2023 does go to Arrow Video for not only their fantastic slate of releases, not only being able to license a lot of really interesting and surprising titles from studios and still keeping up with their cult film releases and Hong Kong and martial arts film releases and classic releases, but then really going hot and heavy into catalog UHDs and producing multiple deluxe releases loaded with supplemental features and new transfers and things, and then really having some standouts even among those, such as Barbarella. But everything, even among those impressive releases, is outshone by their Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest set. I mean, I cannot give enough superlatives to the work and the effort and just the, quite frankly, the miraculous results in this box set. It is the release of 2023. It just simply is. And so I think that among everything else I just highlighted is kind of what puts Arrow Video out ahead, leading the pack overall. And that's why I think they are the best label of 2023. So there you have it. Those are my awards for the best discs of the calendar year of 2023. Again, as always, I am limited to the titles I could purchase myself and look at. So there are so many fantastic releases still out there, and just so many more that I can't wait to hopefully be able to afford and pick up and review one of these days. It's just impossible for one person on their own to be able to literally purchase every catalog release from all the different labels and then be able to view and review them in 1 year, because unfortunately I have to use my available income, and that's I don't quite have that magical amount available yet to be able to afford every catalog release for a year. But I do try to cover the major releases, and in these awards I try to focus on what I feel are the truly important aspects of a physical media release in terms of artwork, packaging, design, overall value for money. But also I want to highlight disc encoding and audio presentations and restorations and supplemental features, and really shine a spotlight on the people who contribute to these releases and the labels. So I always try to do these as I said at the start, a bit of a buyer's guide. If you haven't picked up any releases this year, or you're considering purchasing some that you were rather impressed by some notices and things, but also to generate discussion and to get people thinking more about these things, because this isn't just about disc releases and physical media. This is about film preservation, and it's about film culture, because this is how we're preserving films. This is how we're viewing films. This is how we're enjoying and being able to learn more about films through the supplemental features. This is our film studies. This is our film school. This is how we more deeply experience films. It's not just about collecting disc releases and having favorite labels or things like that, because this is also most important for getting things right. And when things are not properly done, these become issues that become baked into films. And with the constant news articles and stories and cries of, is physical media dying, and what are film studios doing, and how is the industry changing, there is a potential that a lot of films may not see another physical media release or another format release. So that makes this even more important, however much credence you lend to those stories and things. And also, we're in a sort of golden age of physical media. We've never had it this good in terms of the number of titles available from different markets and different labels, and mostly at affordable prices and things. So then it becomes difficult to just simply pick and choose what you want to look at, because you're just overwhelmed with the number of options, and your poor wallet will never be able to keep up. So that's always a reason why I like doing things like this. And of course, this is merely my own opinion. These are my own opinions drawn from all the different releases I was able to look at over 2023. And I do these as a sort of guideline to give you my own opinions on 2023 releases, or releases of any given year. And my list obviously won't be the same as yours or anyone else's, but again, I like to do this to highlight and really champion people who I think did incredible work over a past year, and spotlight certain elements of particular releases that I don't think got enough credit. And also, I just want to keep the conversation going, and to get people to look more closely at disc releases, and to apply a keener eye at transfer quality and audio quality and overall presentation quality, and to think about how the extras are put together, and think about releases that really go above and beyond on all levels to make a superlative release that really gives each individual film the love, respect, and attention and care that they deserve. Ideally, this is what we would see on every film getting a release from every studio or boutique label, but that's unfortunately not going to happen. So it makes these releases all the more special, and it's all the more reason why they should be spotlighted and championed. So that's why I do these awards, and I just hope that I can at least be of some service to people on YouTube, or to people just looking for some great disc releases to pick up that they just haven't gotten around to yet. So as always, I hope my babbles and nerdiness about films and physical media and disc releases has been at least somewhat fun and informative. If you had any favorites of 2023 in terms of disc releases, or disc releases in technical terms, or supplemental features, packaging, artwork, box sets, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below to keep this conversation going, which is all I'm ever trying to do in my videos here on this YouTube channel. I want to say a big thank you to all of the various people and individuals who worked on these releases in terms of the authoring, the encoding, the supplemental features, the packaging, the transfers and masters themselves, and of course the labels and studios for producing such incredibly impressive disc releases that really allowed these films to shine brightly for all of 2023 catalog releases. So as always, please do keep supporting both studios and boutique labels by buying films on disc, because in doing so, you help both physical media and film culture itself to stay alive and thrive. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.
After midnight, we're gonna hand out some disc awards.
It's 3 a.m. now. I'm a crazy person.